and had a little bit of problem with the recording, so the video is probably going to be a little later. I already started the podcast version. Sorry about that, but recording here on for the YouTube version, I should say, right here on the video version of 360 Wrestling Fanatic, and to catch the YouTube people up that are watching the video of it, we started Collision, London, Ontario, Budweiser Gardens, Tony Schiavone, Excalibur, or Nigel McGuinness, and Ian Riccaboni sitting in tonight for commentary on Collision. And we start things off with the AEW TNT champion, the Rated R superstar, Adam Copeland, and it is time for the Cope Open. It's been a little bit since we have had a Cope Open here in AEW. In case for some reason you're not familiar with what the Cope Open is, it's an open challenge issued by none other than Adam Copeland. And now the only difference is with the Cope Open Challenge. These matches are going to be for the AEW TNT Championship. And I have to admit, for me anyway, I was surprised to see who accepted this challenge tonight. I was expecting him. Of course, he has been in Game Changer Wrestling for a while now. He just recently showed back up in TNA. It's the Deathmatch King, Matt Cardona. Of course, right away, the first thing, right when Matt Cardona came out, him and Adam Copeland have a history. I'm sure everybody knows that's listening to this podcast right now, but in case there are some, for some reason, that don't, Adam Copeland was one of the edgeheads in WWE, along with Kurt Hawkins, now known as Brian Myers. And so, like I said, there's a history there, and they did bring that up on commentary quite a bit, which I thought was pretty good. The whole student and teacher thing, and they had a really good match. Cardona looked really good tonight, so did Copeland, and there was some really good spots in this one as well. I didn't expect Cardona to defeat Adam Copeland for the TNT Championship tonight, but there were a few spots where it did possibly look like Cardona could win the TNT title by defeating Copeland tonight, which that was not the case. Adam Copeland defeated Matt Cardona to retain the TNT Championship. Very good match, though. I recommend if you missed tonight's episode of Collision for some reason, or just missed this match if you tuned in late, definitely check this one out. Really good. Then after the match, after Adam Copeland successfully retained the AEW TNT Championship, the lights go out, and when they come back on, Malachi Black is in the ring. So it looks like maybe a future challenger for the TNT Championship, Malachi Black versus Adam Copeland, we could possibly see. And then we see the rest of the House of Black, and Mark Briscoe comes out to make the save, but House of Black still has the numbers advantage. And then we see the Ring of Honor World Champion Eddie Kingston come out, and that helps even up the odds. And we also find out that at the Dynasty pay-per-view April 21st, we will see a trios match. Adam Copeland joining forces with Mark Briscoe and Eddie Kingston to take on the House of Black, which I'm sure that'll be a very good match. But maybe a kind of unlikely team there, though. You got Adam Copeland, Mark Briscoe, and Eddie Kingston. Don't get me wrong. I am excited to see that team. Big fan of all three guys. Of course, the House of Black. I'm sure that's going to be a really good trios match you don't want to miss coming up at Dynasty. But first, this Friday, Eddie Kingston and Mark Briscoe, they're going at it on Super Card of Honor for the Ring of Honor World Championship. And then we have the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn come out, cut a promo on Bullet Club Gold, Jay White, and the Guns about them breaking into Billy Gunn's house. And we find out that this Wednesday night on Dynamite, or is it next Collision? But we will see Billy Gunn and Switchblade Jay White go one-on-one. And then Anthony Bowens was cutting a promo and said they'll stay in the back, not come out to ringside, as long as the Guns don't come out either. Want it just one-on-one Billy Gunn and Jay White. But something kind of tells me, though, that might start off like that. Everybody else in the back, one-on-one. But, of course, I'm sure the Guns will somehow think of a way to get out there and interfere on Jay White's behalf. And next up, we have two quarterfinal tournament matches, I believe they were. I should put that in my notes here, but for some reason I didn't. I don't know why. But we have FTR and the Infantry. Really good match here. Big fan of the Infantry. Most of their stuff on Ring of Honor, on Honor Club, of course. Really good match here. FTR gets the win. Dax Harwood pins Sean Dean. And then after the match, FTR shows respect to the Infantry. And then we have Kyle O'Reilly in action, taking on JD Drake. Not a bad match. So, this was pretty much more of a showcase for Kyle O'Reilly. Not too much of a surprise. They're just building him up after he returned to AEW at Revolution. And then after the match, the Undisputed Kingdom come out, make their way to the ring, and celebrate, or at least try to celebrate with Kyle O'Reilly. And our other quarterfinal tournament match in the tag team title tournament, we have Absolute Ricky Starks and Big Bill, former AEW World Tag Team Champions, and they take on Top Flight. Starks and Big Bill get the win there. Women's action up next. We have Thunder Rosa taking on Lady Frost. Pretty good match here. Is Thunder Rosa getting the win? And then We have a trios match, the Blackpool Combat Club, the American Dragon Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley teaming up with Katsuyori Shibata to take on the Righteous and Lance Archer. Good match here. Shibata scores the win for his team, pinning Vincent, and that was tonight's AEW Saturday Collision. Back on Saturday night. But just another reminder, next week AEW Collision will be on, but not till 11:30 p.m. And who knows if WrestleMania Night 1 that Saturday is going to be over by 11:30 just yet. But we'll just have to wait and see. So far, just in case, I might set to record Collision on the Sling DVR, just in case, depending how long Night 1 of WrestleMania 40 goes. But like I said, we will just have to wait and see. And before I wrap up this episode of the podcast, going to get into a little bit of the news. Actually, the first thing I'm going to talk about here has to do with Collision. Of course, I already talked about the surprise appearance of Matt Cardona coming out accepting the challenge of the Cope Open. And not sure if this is just a one-time thing we're seeing Cardona in AEW, or if we will continue to see him in AEW. Like I said, he really recently showed up in TNA at the Philadelphia tapings at the 2300 Arena, helping Steph DeLander get a victory and become #1 contender for the TNA Knockouts Championship. And speaking of Steph DeLander, she will face Jordan Grace for the Knockouts Championship April 20th at the TNA Rebellion pay-per-view. And WWE has announced the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. No surprise, but once again, it is not even a part of WrestleMania officially anyway. It's going to be on the WrestleMania SmackDown next Friday night, which is no surprise. It's been, I want to say this might be the third year that's just going to be on the SmackDown before Mania. It's unfortunate, but the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, when I want to say maybe the first 2 years that they did it, it did seem like something kind of special, at least little kind of special. But lately, after like the first few years or so, it doesn't really mean anything, doesn't mean much at all. And it's just too bad that they put Andre's name on it. And like I said, this doesn't even really mean anything. And like I said, now they don't even have it on WrestleMania anymore. They have it on the go home episode of SmackDown before Mania. But that is next Friday night on SmackDown, the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. And that is all for tonight's episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Thank you everyone for tuning in, listening, downloading, all that good stuff. Remember, not only are we here on Spreaker right now for the audio podcast, but we're also on YouTube for the video version of it as well. So leave a thumbs up, share, subscribe on the YouTube channels, and anywhere you listen to the podcast app. Also, in the comment section, leave your thoughts on tonight's AEW Collision, and of course, leave your predictions for WrestleMania XL next weekend. Most of the matches, I'm pretty sure, have been announced by now, unless maybe they add one or two. We'll have to see. But once again, thank you everyone for tuning in to episode 574, I believe it is. Hopefully I'm right about that, but I think it's episode 574. Yes, it is episode 574. What do you know, I was right for once. And I'll be back tomorrow morning for the Sunday episode of Good Morning Wrestling Fans, so hope you will all join me then. Have a great rest of your Saturday night, and until tomorrow morning on GMWF, I am Lance, and I am a wrestling fanatic.